What's up everyone, my name is Mike, and welcome to another GameCast Rewind. Today I'll be taking a look at Medal of Honor Vanguard for PlayStation 2. Enjoy! I've heard mixed things about Vanguard over the years. I've heard some say it's the worst game in the series and others say it's pretty good, but I've never heard anyone say it's the best. I got it for PS2 years ago and never tried it until now, mainly because I was occupied with other games. Plus, I wanted to get the Wii version because I had heard it looked a little better and the performance was improved. So I bought the Wii version not too long ago with the intention of playing it for this review. Well, I played it for about 5 minutes before deciding I would hook up my PS2. Developed and published by EA, Medal of Honor Vanguard was released for the PlayStation 2 in March 2007. Budcat Creations developed the Wii version, which released at the same time, and despite some of the improvements, I was turned off by the aiming, which I feel is way too loose, for lack of a better word. As soon as I started playing Vanguard, I was immediately reminded of Medal of Honor Airborne, and the games do share some elements. So let's take a look and see what Vanguard is all about.
You think these Italians are tough? The brass says virtually untrained compared to the Germans.
The game includes 3 difficulty modes, Recruit, Veteran, and Elite, and it plays like any other first-person shooter. You play as Frank Keegan, and you can walk, run, sprint, which drains a stamina meter, crouch, go prone, jump, perform a melee attack, aim down sights, and lean left and right while aiming, but you can't move while aiming. Each operation includes multiple missions, and the game is quite short. You can beat it in about 5 hours or less. Vanguard can be a challenging game, and you will need to utilize cover. A lot. If you're out in the open when enemies appear on your compass, you can die pretty quick. When you take damage, you lose health, and when you lose all your health, you die and will have to restart from the last checkpoint. Your health does regenerate, so you don't have to worry about finding health packs or medkits. You'll get the opportunity to parachute onto battlefields at the start of some missions, and if you land in certain spots, you can acquire weapon upgrades. While the parachute feature is neat, it doesn't really make or break the experience. It's just something you can do. I think the feature is implemented much better in Airborne. Frank can only carry 2 weapons and grenades, and you can swap out the weapons with others found throughout the environments. You'll get your hands on the typical World War II weaponry we've seen in the other Medal of Honor games, but the arsenal is somewhat lacking. There's only 8 weapons you can use in single player, if you don't include the MG42, which is an emplacement only, and certain weapons are only available in multiplayer, which I didn't get a chance to try. The single player does include weapon upgrades that can be found in the environments, and some of them can only be found at parachute landing spots. Unfortunately, the upgrades do very little to improve the experience. 8 usable weapons and only the M1 Garand and Thompson can be upgraded. The M1 Garand can be upgraded with a scope, and the Thompson can be upgraded to use 50-round drum magazines. Ultimately, the upgrades provide little benefit and feel more like a novelty. The scope for the Garand is probably the most useful. Weapons and ammo will be dropped by fallen enemies, and since you can also find them in the environments, these items are not hard to come by, so the drum magazines for the Thompson feel almost unnecessary. You'll be accompanied by friendly soldiers in each mission, but some segments require you to fight through areas solo. You'll primarily be battling the Germans, but you will engage Italian soldiers in the very first mission. The friendly and enemy AI share the same basic behavior, and they're not very intelligent. They'll run around, shoot, take cover, shoot from cover, and throw grenades. In fact, the enemies can be very grenade happy. I've seen enemies run into live grenades, I've seen friendlies and enemies run right past each other, and the friendlies would frequently get in my way, which is annoying. On the plus side, they will shoot at and kill enemies, and they can draw enemy fire away from you. The enemies have decent aim, so if you're out in the open for too long, they can drop you easily, which is why taking cover is so important. They'll shoot at you from windows, snipers are often located at higher elevations, and it would be wise to approach encounters with caution. Running into every situation guns blazing will most likely get you killed. As soon as you enter a new area, enemies usually appear and or come pouring in from somewhere, so you'll want to lean around corners and take your time. MG42 seem to be everywhere, and the enemies will use them to gun you down if you're not careful. The best time to take out the gunners is when they're reloading. You will also have to engage a half-track at one point, and some missions throw tanks at you. The environments in Vanguard are linear. At the start of certain missions, you can parachute onto different locations, but you'll always be funneled down specific paths once you hit the ground. However, most of the battles take place in open areas with plenty of objects and structures to use as cover. I think Vanguard could have benefited from the open environment design seen in the prior games, European Assault and Heroes, which allow you to freely roam around the maps and complete objectives in any order you want. It could have added more replay value to the game and allowed you to experiment with different approaches. Instead, you'll have to complete objectives in a specific order. You'll plant explosives, defend areas, retrieve intel, clear buildings, and secure locations. In each campaign, you can earn medals based on your performance. These include things like completing all campaign missions, complete a mission without dying, complete a campaign without dying, land in designated drop locations, and some others. Being rewarded with certain medals does grant you awards like a sprint recovery bonus, health recovery bonus, and an overall health bonus.
The 82nd Division had been around since World War I. That was the first time we went to Europe and kicked the Hun back across the Rhine.
The protagonist is Corporal Frank Keegan, a member of the 82nd Airborne Division who was eventually promoted to sergeant during the story. The story focuses on his efforts during 4 campaigns: Operation Husky, Operation Neptune, Operation Market Garden, and Operation Varsity. It's your typical World War II video game story kind of stuff. You progress through areas, shooting enemies, completing objectives, and there are no standout characters. Each operation opens with commentary accompanied by video clips from the war, and the voice performances during these sequences are okay. The story is more or less the game's way of representing these historic operations, and you are provided a little history in text form. As far as the visual presentation goes, Vanguard doesn't look terrible for a PlayStation 2 game. It's got that washed out look, so there's not much color, but the environments are well detailed and the foliage looks pretty good. You'll often see planes flying overhead and smoke puffs from explosions in the skies. Explosions and structures destroyed by tanks result in clouds of smoke. There's not a lot of gore, but blood puffs appear when bodies are hit with bullets, and bodies will go flying from explosions. I really like the muzzle flashes, they illuminate dark areas, and when enemies are firing from behind cover, the flashes make it easy to spot them. When it comes to the audio, the sound effects are excellent overall. Most of the weapons sound satisfying, gunfire and explosions will often echo, and you can hear bullets zipping past your head during firefights. The presentation can really make the combat feel intense, or at the very least, look and sound flashy. The action is accompanied by classic Medal of Honor tunes, and from what I understand, most of the songs were recycled from previous games. Regardless, the music is still great. On the technical side, the frame rate will dip frequently, and I noticed an object disappear at one point. I really think Vanguard could have been a much better game. The gunplay is fun, the presentation isn't bad, and the gameplay puts up a decent challenge. However, it does feel like the developers were just using Vanguard to test out ideas for Airborne. I'm not saying that's true, it's just my guess, because there are many elements here that were implemented better in Airborne. The parachute stuff is cool, but I think it certainly works better in open environments. I think the arsenal could have used some more weapons, and the weapon upgrade feature is probably the weakest feature implementation in the game. It seems like the developers just threw them in last minute, like what's the point? You can only upgrade 2 weapons, and in my experience they are of very little benefit. Don't get me wrong, they can be useful, but I never felt like I needed them. In addition to all of this, the game is quite short, and you will take part in the same operations in Airborne, although the locations are different. I do think Vanguard is a solid game that could have used some more development time, because it's not really of the same quality as the prior titles. I would recommend Medal of Honor Vanguard, and only because you can find it for pretty cheap. It's not really a bad game, it shows potential, but it does feel like it may have been rushed. There were 3 Medal of Honor games released in 2007, Vanguard, Airborne, and Heroes 2, and all 3 of them were developed by EA Los Angeles, specifically the PSP version of Heroes 2 and the PS2 version of Vanguard. And out of these 3 entries, I do think Airborne is the best. There's nothing that really makes Vanguard stand out, and many of the game's features were implemented in Airborne, which easily surpasses this. I think fans of the series can get something out of Vanguard, and since you can find it for under $10, I would say give it a shot if you're at all interested. Thanks for tuning in, I hope this video proved helpful. Stick with GameCast for more quality content, including the latest gaming news, podcasts, let's plays, and even more reviews. Be sure to check out my channel, Gaming Pastime, for new game reviews released every week. My name is Mike, and I thank you for watching.
We got him! Someone check on Keegan!